Oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot. We're back. Number two, welcome to the Rusty Headset Podcast. It's so good to be with you guys today. It's been a while. Very happy to be here. Uh, oh man, what's going on? Got a lot to talk about. Last couple of weeks have been pretty eventful to say the least. I think one of the things that has been really eye-opening in the last couple of days has been all these fires right now. It's really, really tough. We've got three, maybe four now, major fires in the state of Colorado that are making breathing and life and just seeing the beautiful state that I live in next to impossible. It's been such a rough couple of days. And most of it has to deal with just being able to breathe. A lot of what's going on is kind of kicking in. I have asthma, and it just makes the breathing so difficult. But I don't want to start off too negatively. I think one of the greatest things about what's going on right now is the fire mitigation processes. You look at what the firefighters are doing today, and you look at all of the different ways that they're able to get some form of containment on these fires. And I'm so thankful that these people can go out there and learn more about fire behavior from firsthand experience, because it matters a lot to us here in Colorado. We are probably, next to California, one of the most wildfire active states in the United States of America. So I'm thankful that although these fires are large and very devastating and get rid of a lot of trees and unfortunately sometimes property, we learn from these things. And I think that's kind of the theme as to what I want to go with today. I was so fortunate to have some time this weekend to actually go ride my bike in a place that was a lot less smoky than where I currently live. And that was at Winter Park, Trestle Bike Park up north off of Interstate 70. And unfortunately, there was another fire that just popped off not too far from the resort. But the good news was I had a friend of mine. He suggested, who's funny enough, also a firefighter. He suggested we should get out there, try to get away for a few hours and, just go ride our bikes and do what we love to do. It made it so hard to ride these last couple of days because I just could not get a good groove going. This air was just too thick and breathing was really tough, and it felt like I was getting holes in my throat. And on top of all of that, I went back to work, and my work involves a ton of talking and being on top of my assignments and my duties. And to be able to talk and be as excited and happy as I am in front of the people that I work with requires a lot of energy. And when I don't have that outlet, like riding a bike after work or even just going for a run or working out, some of you guys kind of know how that feels. It's difficult. It's really tough to go through those times without that outlet. So I kind of wanted to talk about that today and talk about how those outlets are important and, what we do when we don't have them, what we can do to kind of mitigate that frustration that may build, or anxiety, or, for some of us, even depression. Really close friend of mine, well, I shouldn't even say a friend, a family friend of mine, he always tells me that there's like a number of rides a week a person needs in order to stay sane, right? So for some of us, that number's pretty high. It could be 5 times a week, maybe even 6 times a week. You need to pedal somewhere. Doesn't matter where, but as long as I'm on my bike, right? And it could be the same for just about any other activity. If you need to draw 5 days a week, if you need to run 5 days a week, heck, if you just need to get out of the house and go to the store 5 days a week, that that time is precious to you, and that ability to go do those things is very important. So coming back to going to Winter Park, riding bikes, I felt so thankful to be in the culture and be around people who are like-minded individuals. One of the greatest things about hanging out with my buddy is that he's maturity-wise just eons ahead of me, and we were talking about life and talking about relationships that we've had and friendships that we've had and lost, and maybe ones that we wish we had, built upon and made stronger. And he just gave so many good tips about meditation and reflection and self-checks and spending that time being aware of yourself and being aware of your emotions. And I'm very humbled by calling myself his friend because he was a very good guy. It meant a lot to me what he said. And I'd like to share some of that today because I think it kind of translates to a little bit of what I want to put on this and what I want to share with people that are close to me, especially those who are listening now. Most of you are people that I already know. Most of you are friends, family members, etc. And I like to share these because I think not even just so that I can say, oh, I know something you don't know, but to say that I know where you're coming from. Although I might not have time to, check in with everybody that I love and know and care for, I like to use this as a platform to say, hey, this is what I found that's worked, and I want to share those tools as much as I can. Whether or not they work for you, I think it's important to be open about those things and be honest when those hard times come and you don't have the outlet that you normally have. And how do we cope with those times, especially in a world like right now? So if this is in an archive, the year is 2020 and we're fighting off a global pandemic. We're fighting off very, very polarizing structures, and not only in politics, but the economy and racial tensions and all of these things that have driven up in the last maybe say 20 years. I talked to a friend of mine and we talked about 2020, and they had a negative outlook, and they were saying, this is just, it's the worst year ever, right? It's the worst year. It's never going to be this bad again. Even if we do get on the other side of this year, it's like everything after this will be better. And I stopped and I thought about it, and I said, well, think of everything as like a clock or like a stopwatch or even a countdown. Everything that we've seen today, we've had before. Now, it might have been 100 years ago, but we've had just about every scenario that's taking place right now. The unfortunate aspect of everything, I think, personally, and you might not share the same sentiment as me, but the thing is that everything kind of came at once. Everything came all at the same time. And whether or not that's good or bad, I think it's important to recognize. I almost, in a somewhat masochistic way, I feel thankful that all of this is coming right now and we're getting through it together and we're figuring out how we can be better at the other side of this. And that's what makes me so thankful, is that, going through all these hard times, I feel like the strong only get stronger. Now, sometimes the weak get weaker, but I think if the right people share the right things with as many people as they can, we just might be able to get out of this together, happier, stronger, and more ready with better tools for when the next time comes. So I'm very close to the United States history. I'm a very big fan of looking at the last 100, 150 years of our nation. And I think there have been pockets of time where this did take place, where good people stepped up and good people gave the right tools to everybody else. And that is not limited to political leaders. That is not limited to civil rights advocates, although it does include both of those parties. It includes normal people just like you and I. And I so look forward to the people who stand out and are the positive advocates for the next however long this situation will be. So with that, I wanted to talk about some of the positive advocates in my life today. And I really wanted to start with the people that I live with. I'm very fortunate right now. I've got so many good friends of mine that I've had for years. And I know that given 10 years and distance and, families that will start to develop and, kids and everything, I'm still going to be close with these people because they're just those good people. You might notice that today's podcast sounds so much better than the last one did. And the reason why is because my roommates all got together and spent their hard-earned money to pay for a new microphone for me. And I didn't have to talk to the laptop microphone. So I want to give them a shout out and a huge thank you for what they've done. It means the world to me, and I am just so thankful for those people. Excuse me. So we have good people. We have people that don't even know it yet, but they're leaders, right? These could be, gosh, if you have kids, this could be their coaches. These could be their peers, their teachers, the ones that look out for them. They could be you. And I think knowing is not what's important, that you're a leader, but rather practicing and preaching the values that you have. And one thing that I bring up a lot in my own personal life is just the hard-willed people who know when, the going gets tough, the tough get going, right? This old proverb that essentially means when times get tight, times get hard, you really see the good and the strong-willed people rise up. One thing that I take away from this too is I kind of reflect on my childhood. My mom, God bless her, she was a very hard-working single mother, and the times that we had when we lived together alone in this, little apartment, I remember her working so hard and her trying to make herself better while making both of our lives better and sacrificing a lot for me. And I'd like to think that seeing that firsthand really helped me become a better person and become the person who I am today. Now, we all make mistakes, and I think that is one of the most important things to remember is that nobody is perfect. And the beauty of that is you should feel, and you absolutely are, capable of forgiving yourself for the things that you may regret doing. we talk about in my my cohort, we talk a lot about where we went wrong. There's always this focus on how we can do better. What did we do wrong? What did we fail on? What did we need to fix? And sometimes it's difficult, right? You hate to stare at your mistakes right in your face. You hate to say, "Oh man, I made a uh-oh today." But I think it's so important to recognize internally and externally that, hey man, I made a mistake today. I need to take the L on this one, right? I look at all the things that I do. I've got the bike hobby, the car hobby, my job, a couple of other things that I do, photography, whatever. And all these things, you can find almost the beauty in the mistakes. You can find the good in the bad, right? There's always a good in a mistake. And what is that good? Is that, hey, I can learn from this. I can be better because of this. Another good is, hey, I tried. I think so much is lost in this last 20 years in America, and I could be wrong. I mean, I'm still a young person, but I look at the generation that's really, the young and upcoming generation, let's say 15 to 20, maybe 16 to 21, that kind of pocket of people. And there's so much focus on the negative. There's so much focus on, I don't have the best life. It's all of that, let me put the pressure on myself instead of trying to take a second and see why that pressure is on me in the first place. And these poor people, God bless them, they work so hard. And while I think that is a great motivator, it's tough to see these young and people that are striving to be the best at what they do kind of put themselves down. And I never want to see that happen to the wrong people. I think a lot of people, especially in America, I mean, anybody listening to this can probably attest to this, that in this country, there's such a focus, and I can't speak for everywhere else, but there's such a focus on the winners of society, right? The winners of capitalism, let's say, and the people that make a lot of money and that have the lifestyle that maybe I want, or maybe my friend wants, or maybe kids in high school looking at their cell phones on social media, maybe they want that life. And that could be, they could be we'll say the Kylie Jenners of the generation, or the Kim Kardashians for those of us that are a little older. And that really concerns me, because again, you want to learn from your mistakes. You want to learn, why did I do something wrong? Did I just not know what was going on? Did I purposely do something wrong? And reflect on those things. But when you have those conversations, when I see people having those conversations with themselves, when they're able to, particularly in this little pocket of the age group that I'm talking about, I see them getting so down on themselves. And I see them almost giving up. And it makes me fear for the future. And it makes me fear for their future, because I want them to be able to look up. I want them to be able to say that I made a mistake yesterday, but today's a new me. Instead of saying, well, Kylie Jenner doesn't mess up. Kylie Jenner's got billions of dollars. Right? She got a multi-billion-dollar company on her own. And she's only, let's say she's 23. She's only 23 years old. I'm 19. I got to get going. I got to hurry up. I got to get this degree. I got to put all this pressure on myself so I can be the best person I can be. And sometimes that works for people. But I think most of the time it almost loses a part of your soul, and that you compare yourself to something that is in a different wheelhouse. And that is not to say that nobody can do what a famous person does, because any average Joe can do what a famous person does. But I think a lot of it requires being in the right place at the right time. Now, a lot of us know that, maybe not all of us believe in luck, but I think a lot of us know that there's certain chances that we may only get once in this life that sometimes we miss. I know for me, there have been plenty of things that have escaped my reach because I simply didn't know that they were there. Maybe I didn't know that, to bring this back to mountain biking, as this is the Rusty Ed Set podcast, and I should talk about bikes once or twice this podcast. Maybe there was let's say I'm doing a race, and maybe there was a line that I was set up to do on a rock garden or something, or a really difficult part of the trail, and I completely missed it because I was looking somewhere else, or I didn't tune my bike right the night before, so oh man, I messed up, and now I gotta take a couple of seconds off my time, and that would have got me a couple of extra places up, or whatever the case may be. And it's important to know, personally, I feel that it's okay. It's okay to take those L's. It's okay to know that some chances won't be taken and they'll be lost. And even though it's forever, it doesn't mean that it makes you less of a person. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my hoo-ha. All right. If you've made it this far, all the love. I'm so glad you could be with me today. It's been a very interesting week. There's been a lot of self-reflection. I just went back to work about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. And I came in with a lot of uncertainties and a lot of lack of enthusiasm. And I asked myself why. Today, I asked myself why. I went to work today just like I always do, and kind of reflected on why wasn't I excited 2 weeks ago, but I'm more excited today. And I think the simple answer is that I'm more certain of my moves now. I'm more certain of what it is I want to get done at work this day, right? What do I need to accomplish today, and how am I going to do that? And I know where the roadmap is, right? Planning is such a huge, integral part of this 9-to-5 establishment that we've all kind of made for ourselves. And I love the planning aspect because it gives you a way to kind of roadmap out where you're going, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. So if I may, I know this is episode 2, but if I may, for those of you that have made it this far and are still listening and haven't fallen asleep yet, challenge you to say, try this in your own time, and think about where you're going to roadmap the next, let's start with 3 hours. How do we start with the next 3 hours? What are we going to roadmap? What do we want to think about? What do we want to accomplish? And you'll find that if you step back and look, at least I have, you're like, oh man, I didn't realize I wanted to do that today. Well, cool. Let's go accomplish that. And speaking of chances, you might not even know that you opened up a whole new avenue of things that you could do for the next couple of weeks, right? So 3 hours turns into 3 days, turns into 3 weeks, months. Before you know it, you're looking at, well, what career path do I want to take? What job do I want to have in the next 3 years? What job is going to get me the right happiness to income pace, right? What's that ratio? What's that formula? How much of my day do I want to give, and what do I want to give my day towards? Now, y'all know the answer for me. If it's bikes, I'm in. If I got to spend 20 hours a day engineering a bike piece, and it means I get to pedal for 2 hours every day, and I sleep for the other 2 hours, hey, if it works, I'm in. Okay? I'm so in. And I think the reason for that is because I've found what makes me tick, and what makes me want to go, and what makes me want to move and stay motivated. And I couldn't tell you what it is. I think a lot of it is just, on one side, the mechanical aspect. I've always been like this math guy, right? I completely disregarded it when I chose my college degree, or my major rather. But I like the idea of numbers being in front of me all day, and statistics and data, and solving a math equation or looking at angles of a piece. And then the other aspect is, of course, just being on a trail, going balls to the wall, adrenaline is pumping, your fingers are shaking, and you're just trying to make it down this crazy, rooty, rocky trail. It just makes me excited just to even talk about, And another thing, too, is I just love the idea that you can make that a job, right? You can make just about anything a job. As I'm sitting here, I'll try to post a photo with this, but I'm sitting here in this little spare room that we have in the house, and one of the things I'm staring at is this suitcase in front of me. And all I can think is somebody's job was to draft this on like an AutoCAD program and say, this is the new suitcase for 2016, and this is the material that we're going to use. These are the thicknesses of the zippers. And some guy spent hours getting all that ready to go, right? And I just hope this guy loves his job, because he did a good job. I mean, it's a suitcase that's held up. There's hardly any scratches on it. It's been beat up at the airport, but it looks good, aside from a couple of zipper heads being broken off. They've been replaced with zip ties, so that's okay. Listen to me talk about a suitcase. Oh my gosh. Love it. Love it. I love just thinking of all the opportunities and avenues out there. So let's talk about some positive stuff. So, some goods. It has been one of the most beautiful summers, despite everything that could have brought it down. I have been so fortunate to be on the bike for most of the year, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, you look at anybody my age, right? Anybody in their 20s, and there's so many places that you could be right now. There's so many things that you could be doing, but I just think I'm so thankful to be where I am today, and to know that I established my own, I created my own destiny. I established my own spot. I've got my own job. I got my own place. I got my own car. And that makes me happy. That helps me float freely. That helps me not be a gross, rusty headset. It keeps me greased, if you will. Independence was always a big thing for me. And having my own car and paying my own bills, and being able to afford insurance and groceries and not have to worry about how much it is, I tell you, is one of the biggest freedoms I think I'll ever feel. I don't care how nice my car is. I don't care how big or small my house is. I could have shoes that don't match, but the fact that I know I can afford that at the end of the day and pay for myself, I think has been a big pride piece for me, but also a big winning mentality for me. Like I know that Kylie Jenner can probably afford her own pair of shoes. I'm sure. But I also know that that's something that puts me and Kylie Jenner in the same wheelhouse. We're both independent, right? What's up, Beyonce? Independent woman, let's go, all right? If you hear me say, hey, okay? And I'm so thankful to know that I'm smart enough to put myself in the position where I am independent and I am self-sustaining. God, I would just feel so horrible for my parents that they still had to pay for my way. And I'm thankful for the times that they did. You know, we didn't have everything, but we sure had enough. I went to school, I graduated, and I got to go to college. And not everybody in this nation can say that. And I'm thankful to be one of those who can, which means I can sit in front of you guys today and ramble on, and somebody will listen and talk to me about how they're feeling, and hopefully this will inspire somebody to do something great with their lives. And I think that's why I start this. I think that's why I want this platform, is because I want, somewhat selfishly, I guess, I want there to be some connection between what I say and somebody's life, somebody's troubles, somebody's trials. And I think on the other end, me being open about my issues and my concerns with this, you know, maybe with this world, with my career, with my relationships with people, I think, and people have, and thank you for those who have already, people reach out and they share ideas and they say, well, this is, you know, one of the most important things for me. And I think that, you know, you should try this, just like my friend did on Sunday when we went to the bike park. And I'm so thankful for those times. I'm a very community-driven person, and it's why I have the career that I have. And I think it's why I have the relationships that I have. The people that I share my life with are very much the same way as me. There's a community piece in everything that we do. So, you know, for example, you see your neighbor having some issues. You know, we got a guy next to us who loves to do work at 6 a.m. God love him. God love him. And he gets up, he pours concrete, he hammers in the nails and gets his driveway all nice, and it takes 3 weeks. But at the end of the day, his house looks good. And I mean, it looks good, right? And I look at this guy, and I can't even be upset. Even though my window's wide open and I hear him hammering at 6 a.m. and it might wake me up, I'm so thankful that there's still people out there that wake up that early and get stuff done and work hard for really only his benefit. His driveway directly benefits him. But I think it's important to celebrate those people and let them know that you are proud of them, and tell them, you know, regardless of how much it might wake me up in the mornings, I'm still thankful that you're the way that you are, if I may. So I think we'll end there today. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you listening. It's been fun to kind of get this started, and I'm hoping that soon I can get all the social media kind of picking up a little bit. Hopefully start to get more solidified ideas about what I want this to be about. But for now, it's nice to kind of just sit and ramble a little bit. And I think that is my own personal therapy, to be here and chat with you about issues I may have, things that are important to me. Just for again, maybe a little selfish, but for my own benefit, and hopefully for somebody else's as well. So thank you, and I will see you guys next week.